book that we just discussed a couple of weeks ago, Benjamin Corey's Unafraid, Moving Beyond Fear-Based Faith. It'll make sense. I couldn't let today's gospel lesson pass by without making a few comments about it. And if you haven't read the book, I would recommend reading it. If you want to borrow my copy, feel free to ask. I'll be glad to loan it to you. I think it's well worth the read. But the passage that's designated for today, being the fifth Sunday of Easter, is the same lesson from the gospel that's actually used on Maundy Thursday when they have Maundy Thursday services. And in this passage, just a little bit about it, Jesus' time is very short on this earth. He only has hours to live before he's going to go on trial to be crucified. And he is gathered around the Passover table celebrating the final communion and Passover with his followers. And during this time, he is offering a very important lesson and some parting words to those who, let's face it, gave up everything to follow him. They laid down their fishing nets, they gave away their boats, and they followed him. They left their tax collector's booth and their money, and they followed him. They left their service in the Revolutionary Guard and followed him. But even after 3 years of living and learning from Jesus, nothing could prepare these guests for what was going to happen over the next 2 days. So here on that Thursday night, they're sitting around the table enjoying a wonderful meal and taking in some great food and wine and enjoying each other's company and laughing. And then Jesus talks to them a little bit. It's kind of ironic, to me at least, that the story that we look at today is actually wedged between two painful events. So the joy of this Passover meal is actually inserted in the middle of two very painful events. In the verses just before our lesson today, Judas has looked Jesus in the eye and been identified as the one who would betray him for 30 pieces of silver. And in the verses that follow today's passage, Jesus looks at Peter in the eye and he says, before the rooster crows 3 times, you will deny me 3 times. So wedged between betrayal and denial, Jesus offers those who were gathered with him that night as well as us today the most incredible lesson that any of his followers could ever learn. If you would like to follow, I'm going to read a few short verses from the 13th chapter of the Gospel of John. I'm going to begin reading with verse 31, and I invite you now to hear the word of the Lord. When Judas was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. But a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so must you love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." This ends our reading from the Gospel this morning. This is the Word of God, and it can be trusted. Thanks be to God. As our omniscient Creator, Jesus knew way back when the mist was over the unformed land, and heavens hadn't been separated from earth, man and woman had not been created yet, but Jesus knew then that the new way that he would bring to earth, this new religious system that we now know as Christianity, he do exactly what we would be facing then and now. Religion has been a great source of good in this world. It's been a deep well of grace and mercy and hope. But as we've all seen in our lifetime, as well as any student of Christian history can tell you, there's a dark side to religion as well. If by now we haven't put two and two together and figured out that it will take more than killing to stop killing, it's going to take more than another war to stop wars. And if we look around, we can see that contrary to following Jesus as our spiritual leader, our belief system has been hijacked by fear and ignorance. And that fear and ignorance leads us into a bad place, and that bad place is increased violence. Violence against our brothers and sisters. So the question I ask all of us this morning, based on what we heard from John's Gospel, is this. How do we redeem Christianity from a path of evil in which faith is used to frighten and ignite the fires of conflict? That's a deep theological topic, isn't it? When any religion is consumed by and teaches fear, it spawns a very radical brand of religious fundamentalism. That fundamentalism arises when it begins to claim absolute knowledge and exclusivity. And that in turn breeds contempt and hostility from those who are not like the ones who are creating this hostility. Whether we're talking about Christian, Muslim, or Jewish fundamentalism, anger and fear become the basis of the message instead of love and reconciliation. And when that style of fundamentalism emerges, all of a sudden there's a rise in dogmatism, anger, hostility. They become routine, and that is clearly not what Jesus taught. Practicing a religion that is contrary to the embodiment of Christ completely tells us that is not. It is the absolute opposite of who we're meant to be. I think one of the greatest lessons that Jesus came to teach us was to look to the light of God, which the history of this religious system over the years has been eclipsed by the status quo. Established religion operated completely within doctrines and systems of regulatory rhetoric simply become religious systems, not belief systems. Jesus was far closer to those folks he ran into on the streets. He was far closer to those who were blind and outcast and beggars. Jesus loved to be surrounded by those who were hungry, not the ones who were falsely full of their own importance. Jesus was not very discriminating when it came to who he hung out with. He embraced fishermen, tax collectors, Samaritans, fallen people, hopeless people, and lawbreakers. We're called to be like Jesus. He even goes as far as to say that we're to love others like he loves us. And if you think that's not a tough commandment, try living it. Love each other like Jesus loves us. And if that's not enough, he says, the only way anybody's going to know who you are, or know who you belong to, is if you love others like I love you. Because that's what will set you apart. That the way we treat each other is how we'll be identified. The greatest lesson that Jesus taught his followers is a startling new way of living together in this world. This love that Jesus commands means that we lift people up instead of putting people down. This love that Jesus teaches forgives instead of condemns. This love walks beside the downtrodden without any expectation of being loved in return. This love looks into the face of hatred, fear, ignorance. And it says boldly, love will prevail over hatred and shame. This love that Jesus teaches says life is greater than death. And I'm going to celebrate that assurance. Now, like everyone else in this world, we have to choose whether we want to live this great lesson or not. And if we fail, have we done our part to bring Jesus into the world?